So today I'm going to be talking about the impacts that humans have had on the earth. So first of all, I would like for you all to imagine a world where everyone is fighting over resources, and now, believe it or not, that is closer than we may think. The fact that things are not changing at a rate that we need them to be changing means that things will soon be unfixable, and we will be at that picture that I had you imagine. Even by 2030, in 10 years, we are expected to have mostly desert across the board. Even the capital of Indonesia is expected to be completely submerged by 2050, which is only 20 years after the desertification. So I'm going to be talking about the three umbrella impacts that humans have had, and the first being air pollution. The causes we have emissions are man, which are factory emissions, cars, planes, aerosol cans, even cigarette smoke are all man-made emissions, and natural emissions, which we can do nothing about, are wildfire smoke and volcanic ash. And we have indoor pollutants that are wood, coal that you would burn inside your house to heat it up, and even radon gas that is coming up through the ground into the home. The effects are on humans and the environment. Humans have both long and short-term effects, meaning there can be pneumonia and bronchitis for short-term, and long-term meaning heart disease and even cancer. And on the environment, we're seeing more contaminants in the water and in the soil, meaning that our food is being contaminated, and even to the point that it is killing young trees and the crops, which means that our food is going to be impacted. And we are seeing acid rain coming down from those areas that are more smog rich. And the potential solutions for air pollution would be air pollution quality control that the WHO has implemented since the 90s, meaning that every area has to have a certain percentage of clean air for it to be a livable environment. We have public transportation whenever it is possible, so that we're not all using as many cars on the roads as we have now, and even walking or riding bike when it is possible. And finally, recycling things such as like compostable items, just so we're not burning as many things as we are now. And then these are the diseases, and then the most rich emission areas. So the second umbrella category would be deforestation and degradation. So some of the causes are the conversion to agriculture, meaning that areas of forests are being cut down to become plots of land to grow crops, because as the population increases, we're going to need more food. And because of that population increase, agriculture is the number one reason that forests are being chopped down. And once the land is converted to agricultural plots, it cannot go back to the forest it used to be. And fires is the second one. Logging fires are the most popular, and usually plots of land are set on fire so that they can turn it into an agricultural plot. So the effects of deforestation is greenhouse gas emissions are being increased because we are emitting carbon instead of soaking it up, and that changes the weather patterns and even increases the temperature of the earth as a whole. We have soil being eroded, meaning that the soil is becoming brittle and more like dust, so it is easier for the wind to blow it away and even the water to rush it away. And the water is off balance because of the soil being put into the water, meaning that it is being thrown off, and the precipitation levels are different, and the direction of flow actually can even be changed by the amount of water, or the amount of soil that is in the water. And people's livelihoods are being ruined because people live in these forests and they work in the forest, and if we chop them all down, they have no more way to make a living. And then the potential solutions would be implementing policies that would allow for these forests to be considered a priority as opposed to a moneymaker. We have sustainable bioenergy and infrastructure, meaning we would rely less on fossil fuels and those other, and we would rely more on renewable resources so that we're not digging deeper into the ground. And then we would factor in the value of those forests as opposed to how much the forest can make in the future. And then we have conservation of these forests, because we have protected areas, but we have to make sure that we are keeping those areas protected. And then here we have a forest in Indonesia that was cut down to become a plot for palm oil, and then what the erosion looks like. And then lastly, we have overpopulation, and the main causes are poverty, poor education, of contraception use, reduced mortality rate and the fertility rate going up. So poverty is actually the leading cause of overpopulation because there's a lack of education in the poverty-stricken groups, meaning that there are more babies being born. The poor contraceptive use and the education areas, meaning they don't have condoms or birth control, or they have access to it, they just aren't taking it as seriously as they should, which is why nearly 1/4 of all births are unexpected. So we have reduced mortality rate because as medical technology advances, the life of people also advances, meaning that the ages go up, so people are using the resources longer. And fertility, it's allowing people who were infertile to become fertile by other means of technology as well. So here we have how the population is growing per billion per 10 years. And then we can see that we're already overshot the carrying capacity, which was 3.3 billion, we're already up to 7. So in conclusion, I would like to talk about how these are just the leading impacts that we've had on the earth. There are plenty more. These are just the umbrella categories. Humans aren't the only living things that are being impacted. Animals, plants, even organisms, everywhere are being impacted. Poverty is the main issue for all three. If poverty could be taken out, there would be more education that could be effective, and everybody has an impact. You may not believe it because maybe you won't see any of these things happening in your lifetime, but you have to understand that people later on will be seeing all of this and will be dealing with it more than you are. So thank you. That is my presentation on the impacts of the human.